A young man named Mek is interested in nothing but video games. Of course his mother and grandmother are not happy about this, especially when during a traditional memorial ceremony at the cemetery, Mek did nothing but stare at his phone screen. Meng Ju, Mek's grandmother, is disappointed that the younger generation does not honor their ancestors. Mek sees no point in it all, believing that the deceased do not care anymore and feel nothing. Soon Meng Ju was hospitalized with abdominal pain. Her entire family gathered to discuss the matter. In the evenings Mek plays video games and streams, but he hasn't managed to attract more than 4 viewers so far. Today he asked his mother to buy him another computer because he had no money left on his card, but she refused, reminding him that he dropped out of school to become a gamer. However, earning money from streaming turned out to be harder than he expected. Then So had to deliver the bad news. His grandmother had stage 4 cancer, meaning she had no more than 12 months to live. So wanted her son to spend more time with his grandmother from now on, but not to tell her about the diagnosis. The next day Mek visited his gravely ill paternal grandfather, who was being cared for by his granddaughter. Mui, who has a nursing degree, knows exactly what to do. Mek does not understand why the girl spends so much time caring for the old man, leaving almost no time for herself. But Mui does not find it burdensome at all. Soon Agong passed away, and the funeral took place. Mek's father had also been gone for a long time. When Mek learned that Agong had left all his property and money to Mui, he was shocked. Late in the evening, the funeral ceremony ended. Mek was consumed with jealousy toward Mui. Why didn't their grandfather leave anything to him? For now, Mek can only dream of one day becoming a popular streamer and getting rich. But perhaps there is another way. Mek decided to become his grandmother's favorite grandson to get her inheritance. Of course Meng Ju could not help but wonder why Mek had suddenly become so kind. From then on, Mek intended to fulfill all of his grandmother's wishes, doing whatever she asked. For Mek, who was not used to being responsible, taking care of someone was a burden, and he made plenty of mistakes. Eventually Meng Ju grew tired of it, and by the end of the day she sent her grandson away. That evening Mek met with Mui, who had put their grandfather's house up for sale and was staying in a luxurious hotel. Mek did not hide the fact that he wanted to take care of his grandmother for the sake of inheritance. But Mui doubted that Meng Ju was as wealthy as their paternal grandfather. However, Mek knew this was his only chance to secure the life he dreamed of. Mui advised Mek to spend as much time with Meng Ju as possible. Attention is exactly what elderly people need. Mek even decided to sell his computer so he could move in with his grandmother and take care of her. He bought groceries, hoping to impress her this way, but it didn't work. Then the young man decided to lay all his cards on the table, telling his grandmother that she had stage 4 cancer and that her children simply did not want her to know. Mek declared that he wanted to dedicate this time to her. Meng Ju, barely holding back her emotions, nodded. Mek had to start waking up at 5 in the morning with his grandmother. Naturally, he was not used to such an early rise. Meng Ju makes a living by selling grains. Mek volunteered to help her. He was sure that his grandmother did not do this out of real necessity but because she loved to work. Later in the day, Meng Ju met with her friend Njek, who also had cancer. Njek told Meng Ju how lucky she was to have her grandson by her side. Mek had to put up with his grandmother's rather difficult character. Mek's mother regularly visited them. The young man never missed an opportunity to serve his grandmother. Later, when the entire family gathered at Meng Ju's house, she announced that she knew about her cancer. Mek said that his grandmother had the right to know the truth. Meng Ju did not want to be a burden to the family, but all of her children unanimously stated that it was no burden at all. Mek was clearly displeased to find himself with competitors. Later, Mek directly asked his mother what she expected from Meng Ju. So was confused because as a daughter, it was her duty to care for her sick mother. Currently she works night shifts to manage everything. When Meng Ju learned from her grandson that her daughter had not slept for more than a day, she was deeply upset. Meng Ju did not want any of her children to sacrifice their lives for her. Mek told his mother that she no longer had to carry everything on her shoulders. He would now be the one to take his grandmother to chemotherapy. Mek asked Mui to give him and his grandmother a ride to the hospital. Mui treated Meng Ju with great care because she knew how to handle elderly people. Although Mek was trying his best, his grandmother did not fully trust him, considering him irresponsible and frivolous. Meng Ju now spent a lot of time reflecting on her life and often thought about her late husband. She was not yet ready to die. Mek said that she surely had many years ahead of her because she had lived a righteous life. Of course, in reality the young man was hoping for the opposite. On the other hand, all this was benefiting Mek, as taking care of his grandmother made him more patient. He took on all household chores, helping her in everything. Sae, the younger son, also visited her occasionally, openly asking for financial help. Meng Ju was glad when he stayed away for a long time, as it meant he was doing well. Meeting Mui, Mek asked her how to deal with his grandmother, as she constantly radiated sarcasm. Mui suggested that it might be a defense mechanism. One day Mengju visited her eldest son, Kyung. Naturally Mek accompanied her. Kyung, who had a wife and daughter, intended to have her move into his home. Everything was well equipped there, so Kyung wanted her to move in as soon as possible, selling her own house. Of course Mek did not like this arrangement and stated that his grandmother needed constant care because the doctor had prescribed a course of chemotherapy. Additionally, her store's regular customers would surely be worried about her absence. Mek's uncle wanted to reward him with money for what he had done for Mengju, but Mek firmly stated that he was not doing it for a reward. The man continued to insist that his mother should stay with him. He worked remotely, so he had the opportunity to take care of her. Moreover, it would be wrong to place all the responsibilities on his young nephew. Mengju had not yet made a final decision, expressing a desire to visit a temple in the city. Her son and his family accompanied her, trying not to show their sadness in front of Mengju. Mek continued to take care of his grandmother in every possible way, worrying that she might still move in with his uncle. Later at the temple, Mengju asked her grandson to write down a wish for a prayer. Mengju wished for her children's happiness and for her grandson to find a good job. But this clearly was not part of Mek's plans, and he kept convincing his grandmother that Kyung did not care about her. Mek himself, by the way, wrote his own wish for his grandmother to win the lottery. Kyung had already planned his mother's move for the upcoming weekend. She listened silently, looking sad. Could it be that Mek was only pretending that she was important to him? To this, Mek replied that he was simply doing what a good grandson should do. Due to chemotherapy, Mengju's hair started falling out. Mek supported his grandmother in every possible way, saying that even if she went completely bald, it would not spoil her appearance at all. Soon Mengju lost all her hair. Mek continued to take care of his grandmother, trying to cheer her up. Mengju truly appreciated it, but on the other hand she felt sad that her children were visiting her less and less. Naturally each of them had their own life. Besides, Kyung was probably offended by his mother for not moving in with him. At some point Mengju noticed that her money was missing. Mek, who had prudently installed a surveillance camera, showed his grandmother the footage. It turned out that her younger son had stolen the money. The next day Mek demanded that his uncle return all the money. Sai admitted that he had been forced to do so due to enormous debts. Mek advised his uncle to disappear for a while until the story was forgotten. On his part Mek promised to take good care of his grandmother. To Mengju, Mek lied that Sai had not been home. Later, a man visited Mengju regarding the sale of her house. The woman was bewildered. The man explained that he had come across an online listing for the sale. Seeing the man out, Mengju did not mention it, merely telling her grandson that her chemotherapy session would be the final one, so he would no longer have to take care of her. Mengju only wanted her grandson to find a good job and build his life. Upset, Mek said that he was just a loafer and would not survive in the real world. But Mengju, despite everything, believed in her grandson, who asked for permission to stay a little longer. Mengju announced that tomorrow he would meet someone. The next day they visited Mengju's older brother, who lived in a luxurious mansion. Mengju asked him for money for her own funeral because she had nothing. When their parents passed away, he inherited everything. They left all the money and property to their son because they followed traditions, even though it was Mengju who took care of them when they got sick. In the end Mengju received nothing from her brother, who no longer wanted to see her in his house. She and Mek returned home in silence. Despite everything, Mek continued to take care of his grandmother. Mengju said that she wanted a beautiful grave so that all her loved ones would visit her. Unfortunately chemotherapy did not bring any improvements, so the doctor saw no point in continuing the treatment. The disease was progressing rapidly. However Mek lied to his grandmother, saying that the treatment had worked, so no more sessions were needed. But Mengju immediately realized it was a lie. Just yesterday Jack, Mengju's friend, had passed away without finishing her treatment, so Mengju wanted to know the truth. In tears, her daughter said that there was nothing they could do but accept things as they were. Mengju took the news with dignity, but at night she cried, begging God to take her sooner. The pain was unbearable. Mek didn't know how to help his grandmother, so he just stayed by her side. Upon learning that their mother's condition had worsened, all of her children gathered, but Kyung was only concerned about selling the house. Mek begged his mother not to let Mengju sign the papers. One way or another, Mengju left the house to her youngest son so that he could pay off his debts. This meant that Mek would receive nothing. Soon Mengju's condition deteriorated further, and she was hospitalized. Her daughter was the only one of the children who truly cared. Mek asked his grandmother why she left her house to Sae, the most ungrateful of her sons. Meng Ju replied that it was because he had suffered the most. But Mek was sure that Meng Ju herself allowed Sae to take advantage of her. She had done exactly what her parents once did. Mek returned to his usual life, living in his mother's house and spending all his time playing video games. So was upset that Kyung didn't even plan to attend their mother's funeral when the time came. She tried to make her son understand that in this life, the most important thing is not to receive but to give. Mui volunteered to take care of another sick relative, whose only son had died several years ago. Mui suggested that she and Mek team up and later share the inheritance. But Mek wasn't sure about anything anymore. He had tried so hard to take care of his grandmother, yet in the end he was left with nothing. Unexpectedly Mui confessed that on the day their grandfather passed away, he had choked. Mui could have helped him but didn't, not wanting to prolong his suffering. Their grandfather had long been asking Mui to let him go to his ancestors. Every day Meng Ju prayed, begging the goddess to free her from sorrow and illness. She missed her grandson terribly. He in turn missed his grandmother. As soon as Meng Ju's house was sold, Sae sent her to a nursing home. When Mek found out, he immediately went there. Sae had paid for the nursing home and even decided to give Mek part of the money from the house sale, but Mek refused, not wanting to accept anything from his uncle. Meng Ju was overjoyed to see her grandson, who couldn't bear the thought of losing the person who had recently become the closest to him. Mek offered his grandmother to come with him, to home. Surprisingly Meng Ju agreed. She was worried that cancer might be passed on to her children. However, there was nothing they could do about it. Meng Ju tried to love all of her children equally, but she was truly grateful only to her daughter. On New Year's, Kyung's family visited them. Kyung was ashamed to face his mother after everything that had happened. Mek explained to his uncle that there was no point in tormenting himself with guilt. The best thing they could do for Meng Ju now was to leave the past behind and be together as a family. By that time Meng Ju could no longer get out of bed. Kyung held his mother's hand, hoping for her forgiveness. Even at night Mek watched over his grandmother, not wanting her to feel lonely when her time came. When it became clear that Meng Ju was dying, Mek cried. The funeral took place. Mek took it very hard. Unexpectedly he received a phone call. Meng Ju had a secret savings account with a large sum of money, and she had left everything to Mek in her will. The young man remembered that his grandmother had mentioned this to him many years ago, but he hadn't listened because he was too busy playing on his phone. The funeral ceremony continued. So cried, as did Kyung, while Sae simply kept a grim face. Mek however felt that he had done the right thing. And his patience had been rewarded.